Welcome to the Water's Edge.
Good evening, I am Yumi Hogen, the First Lady of Maryland. As an artist and the Maryland First Lady, it is my pleasure to announce the opening of Maryland's new museum at the Water's Edge in Oxford, and I am honored to join its advisory committee. I would like to congratulate everyone who worked hard behind the scenes for this opening and recognize the leadership and the support from advisory committee members. As we celebrate Maryland's rich diversity today, the first day of Black History Month, Water's Edge Museum is very important because it's present the art history culture of African American in our state. Through the amazing collection of the museum, you will learn about the founding Black families of Maryland. Their contribution to Maryland are truly appreciated and left incredible legacy for future generations. You will learn about how African American on Maryland's Eastern Shore lived and how their lives mattered. Please enjoy and stay healthy, safe, and strong until we meet in person at the museum. Congratulations again. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford, and I am pleased to serve on the advisory committee for the Water's Edge Museum. Located in the heart of Oxford, this fully accessible gold-leaf museum shares the empowering story of the daily life and spiritual beliefs of the founding Black families of Maryland. I have hiked, canoed, toured through much of this area in order to gain a better understanding of Maryland's astounding history and natural resources. And I recognize the beauty and significance of the rural heritage of our state, particularly where the long, narrow bands of land and water merge together along the Underground Railroad on Maryland's beautiful Eastern Shore. The Water's Edge Museum is interesting to me because it features a portrait of people of African descent against the maritime backdrop of the Chesapeake Bay. It is in this environment that the museum shares with visitors the story of how people of color lived in peace at the water's edge. The Water's Edge features an artistic, literary, and musical chronicling of people of African descent portrayed with innate nobility and dignity. Created 100 years ago, long before the Civil Rights Movement, this was a time when the scars of slavery was still within living memory of the elders, as stories were passed down about mighty ancestors and their achievements. The art was visionary in its poignant brushwork, validation of Black lives, and healing qualities. As W.E.B. Du Bois wrote in the introduction to Souls of Black Folk in 1903, the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. And today we are finally able to have our eyes open to the history of courage and achievement by persons of African descent. The Water's Edge Museum weaves together visual and written accounts, leaving a remarkable legacy that is more than a rare portrait of people. It is an illustrated history, and one that is relevant for young people today, as it shows us how images of people's strength were presented to overcome adversity. The Water's Edge shares the story of how art and culture validated Black lives and promoted true societal integration. Thank you.
So on January 1st of 2021, the third executive order signed by Governor Hogan was about establishing a Maryland committee to try and celebrate the 250th anniversary of the founding of this country. Certainly, people of African descent played a very large role in creating this country. And I think it's really lovely to be in front of portraits that celebrate the descendants or the founding families of America. And I like the fact that Maryland is leading the way in making that statement, because we have everyone from Frederick Douglass, Harriet Ross Tubman, James Pennington, Ayuba Suleiman Diallo, Henry Highland Garnett, and William Still from Maryland. So we have a population, particularly on the Eastern Shore, very aware of the incredible innovation and stamina of their forebears, most of whom were enslaved people, helping to build this great democracy.
What hasn't really been talked about has been the efforts and the great work that was done by our African American citizens here in Maryland, our country. And what's particularly important and what I've seen today is the group of people that you see behind me that were indeed portrayed by Ruth Star Rose. The collection itself is such a broad spectrum of life, whether it's religious or whether it's military efforts during the Second World War that are portrayed here. It is absolutely unique. What I really particularly liked about this collection and about Ruth Star Rose and the others that are involved here is that it takes it to an entirely different level. It takes us to show the real spiritual foundation that was behind all of this. And you see that portrayed in so many of the paintings and lithographs and others that are here.
They were two older sisters of my grandfather, and the one on the right here in blue is Aunt Ruth, and the one on the left is Aunt Pauline. And what I love about this painting is that, Aunt Ruth looks at us, with just these beautiful, bright eyes, very engaged, as she and Aunt Pauline are sitting there so politely. Aunt Paul looks at her, just kind of making sure as an older sister. Right. I knew them in their kind of older years, I guess you could say, but they had that same strength and confidence. Aunt Ruth actually became one of the first black business women in Easton that set up her own shop outside of her home.
It clearly is about the community. The artist is not there portraying herself. What she's portraying is the community, and from, again, through her eyes perhaps, but it transcends that, and so it really becomes real. It just jumps out at you in so many different ways. And whether it's someone that's doing the crab industry, picking crabs, or whether it's the farmers, or whether it's the religious figures that were giving strength to people by showing them the faith that lies behind so much of the success, and the real strength of the individuals in making sure that the country does go in the right direction.
Hi, this is Peter Franchot, Comptroller of the great state of Maryland. As Comptroller, I've always appreciated the remarkable and important diversity of our great state. Maryland's Eastern Shore, in particular, has significant African American history, and the Water's Edge Museum is doing the crucial work of sharing these stories and images of this rich history. Young people who visit the Water's Edge will greatly benefit from visiting a museum that embraces our history, our culture, and art, as well as explores social and environmental justice issues. When you go to the Water's Edge, you'll learn about founding Black families of America and their history of how these families lived and helped create strong and proud communities on the Eastern Shore. The grand opening of the Water's Edge Museum in Oxford is an outstanding and most appropriate way to honor and commence this year's Black History Month. Students across the state now have access to this terrific free virtual museum and online educational content. I know that the Water's Edge will help the young people of today to find their place in history and identify their own positive and unique voice. Welcome to the Water's Edge Museum. I hope you enjoy your virtual tour.
Welcome to the Water's Edge Museum in Oxford, Maryland. This is where we celebrate one powerful American story through history, culture, music, and through art activism practiced here more than a century ago. However conflicted they may have been, the Founding Fathers of America acknowledged that slavery was a critical building block in the foundation of democracy. Enslaved persons, men, women, and children, they were the ones who fueled the engine that would become the new democracy. They were the human element in America's deepest stain, its role in the global slave trade. These were America's enslaved Africans, and in their own unique way, the Founding Fathers of America. At home, on African soil, they knew themselves as Otabenga, Olaudah Equiano, Kunta Kinte, Ayuba Diallo. But once they were relocated to a plantation, they were given new names: Toby, Kizzy, Nero, Jimbo, Modesty. The Water's Edge Museum embraces, explores, and tells again and again in different ways the complex stories of the founding Black families, the people who harnessed their power and placed it quietly but resolutely into the hands of their descendants. The museum honors how they lived and how their lives mattered. They were privately aware of the accomplishments of their forebears. They knew them as healers, skilled craftsmen, respected artisans, revered nobility. Because they knew that, they were resilient, creative, and they too excelled, exemplary in their own right. In spite of pervasive racial injustice, they forged ahead to stake a claim in the America that needed them, but refused to acknowledge them for their crucial role, at least until now. Waters Edward Turpin was a person of color with deep roots on the Eastern Shore. Here are words from his last novel, called The Rootless, of 1957. In it, he evokes the haunting memories of slavery and its aftermath. Throughout these obvious distortions of the folk mind, however, one thread of constancy weaves. A somber chronicle that begins in the foul belly of a slave ship and ends in a gutted ruin. To this day, Oxford, Maryland remains the only UNESCO-documented Middle Passage stop on the eastern shore of Maryland, Delaware, and Virginia. There is no sign commemorating this fact.
Welcome to the Water's Edge Museum. It's an honor to be a part of this place, which is situated in the Oxford think tank in Oxford, Maryland. One of the educational objectives of the Water's Edge Museum includes a project that is near and dear to my heart, the Maryland Spirituals Initiative. Our goal is to bring the empowering history of African American spirituals to life. As enslaved and free workers, people of African American descent built the country and a thriving economy. As warriors and visionaries, thinkers, and orators, many survived the death sentence of plantation work, breaking away to change the country and become Frederick Douglass, Samuel Green, and Harriet Tubman. The legacies are a part of Maryland's rich oral, written, and musical history, and the Maryland Spirituals Initiative seeks to begin a global conversation about the essential role of spirituals as America's finest art form. Noted by W.E.B. Du Bois in 1903 as music that stirred him strangely. Spirituals, or sorrow songs, as he called them, were becoming regarded by an international audience as the most important music in America. James Walden Johnson and his brother composer John Rosman Johnson regarded spirituals as America's only folk music.
Hello, my name is Will Smith, and I'm a Maryland State Senator representing Montgomery County, and this is my wife, Camille.
Hello, my name is Camille Fesh, and I'm an attorney here in Maryland.
The Water's Edge Museum is honored to present a collection of literature, paintings, lithographs, frescoes, and drawings of African American life created over 100 years ago. This is the first time that these elements have been fused together in an exhibition that describes the process of creating works of art to celebrate daily life, spirituality, and the environment. Moreover, the museum reflects upon the artistic process of documenting life at Water's Edge and to promote healing through a deeper understanding.
These portraits, many of them done in oil, accord their subjects a refreshing dignity that was revolutionary at the time in which they were painted. The exhibition also includes work in other media, including the visual arts, literature, and music. The collection aims to expand our knowledge of the lives and histories of America's earliest Black communities.
Through art and culture, the Water's Edge proudly presents a people who tended to be relegated to a caste of the invisible. The early literature about African American life is indebted to author Professor Water's Edge, Edward Turpin of Morgan State University. As a native of Oxford, he published one of the earliest accounts in his novel aptly titled These Low Grounds.
The visual artist and activist Ruth Starr Rose left what is believed to be the largest visual legacy of African American life in Maryland. Having thrived in a supportive community on the Eastern Shore, she recognized the significance of her work and even ventured to places like Mexico, Haiti, and First Nation communities in Florida and the American Southwest to portray the dignity of people of color living there. Laverne Madigan, who served as a director for Indian Affairs, described the artist's portrait of a Seminole woman as disturbingly beautiful, with an inherent stateliness, dignified esteem, and directness of gaze.
The same sense of nobility and mutual respect between those depicted and the artists permeate in the exhibition and paint a beautiful picture of life in an integrated society 100 years ago. Welcome to the Water's Edge.
Tillman, do you want to talk about the Underground Railroad a little bit?
You have been leading people on the Underground Railroad since you were 5 years old. And I've seen photos of you on all these different stops along the way, from the Bugtown store and the Basil Church and the Malone Church. And then there's the Winchester Mill, the Leverton House, and the James Webb Cabin. Which one was your favorite?
You said the cabin.
The cabin. How come? Yeah, the way that there's like a hiding spot built into it is pretty cool, right?
Yeah. We went there yesterday, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I think I've seen a video of Contavious singing at the cabin.
Yes, we did Amazing Grace there. We also did just kind of some footage on the history of the cabin, and that was awesome too.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. 'Twas blind, but now I see.
We also know that you're the co-pastor at the Waters Church, right? And what do you do when you're at the Waters Church?
You guys sing special songs, right? Yeah, they're called spirituals. Yeah. I've seen a lot of videos of you singing spirituals with Miss Tish. What's the song that you like to sing with her? That one's your favorite. That's a fun one.
My favorite too.
And there's all these different versions.
Mm-hmm.
Nina Simone has her own version. I've heard Contavious' version.
Yes, that's why it's his favorite.
He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got a you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got a you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got a you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands.
Welcome to Water's Edge. This museum is dedicated to Tillman's lady, Mrs. Frances Curtis.